A new world. As Jake stepped onto the vibrant surface of Elara, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers, their colors so bright they seemed almost unreal. Towering trees with iridescent leaves swayed gently in the breeze, casting colorful shadows on the ground. He had read about alien worlds, but nothing prepared him for the beauty and strangeness that surrounded him now. "Wow, this place is incredible," Jake exclaimed, pulling out his holo device to capture the moment. He snapped pictures of the flora and fauna, marveling at the bioluminescent plants that seemed to pulse with energy. This is going to make one heck of a travel vlog. As he wandered deeper into the alien landscape, he felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The air became charged, crackling with an energy he couldn't quite identify. Just then, he caught sight of Lyra again, standing near a shimmering fountain that seemed to be made of liquid light. "Stay away from me during this time," Lyra warned, her voice a mix of urgency and authority. "Why? What's so dangerous about this season?" Jake asked, intrigued. "It's mating season for my people," she explained, her eyes wide. "You really don't want to get involved." Jake raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming on his lips. "Come on, how bad could it be? I'm not scared of a little romance." Lyra stepped back, her expression turning serious. "It's not a joke. If you touch me now, you'll attract every male in the vicinity. They won't care who you are. They'll see you as a rival." He chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. "I've faced worse challenges. Besides, I'm not some helpless Earthling. I can handle myself." Lyra frowned. "You don't understand the customs here. It's not just playful. It's dangerous. You might regret it." "Oh, I love a good adventure," Jake replied, feeling cocky. "Let's explore this city together. What's the worst that could happen?" Reluctantly, Lyra decided to accompany him, but she stayed alert. "Just promise you won't touch me," she said sternly. "Sure thing." "No touching," he said, raising his hands in mock surrender. As they strolled through the city of Valara, Jake marveled at the alien architecture. Buildings were constructed from translucent materials that shimmered like jewels under the sun. Various alien species walked the streets, some hovering in the air, others gliding gracefully. Jake couldn't help but stare, his mind racing with possibilities for his vlog. "Look at that!" He pointed excitedly at a creature that resembled a cross between a bird and a dragon. It soared overhead, casting a shadow on the bustling crowd below. "This is unbelievable." Lyra sighed. "You really should focus on not getting into trouble. Remember, mating season makes everyone more volatile." Just as she said that, a group of muscular, tall aliens approached, their eyes fixed on Jake. They were covered in vibrant scales that glimmered in the sunlight, and they exuded an aura of power. "Who is this?" one of them growled, his voice low and intimidating. Jake straightened up, trying to appear confident. "I'm Jake, just a friendly Earthling exploring your wonderful planet." "Friendly, huh?" The leader's gaze narrowed, a smirk playing on his lips. "You shouldn't be here, Earthling. You're too weak for our world." "Maybe," Jake shot back, surprising himself with his own boldness. "But I'm not afraid to try." Lyra stepped between them, her voice firm. "Back off. He's with me." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from annoyance to amusement. "You're brave, little human. But this is our territory," the leader said, glancing at Jake, then back at Lyra. "And it's mating season. Best you remember that." Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. "I can handle it." The leader chuckled, clearly entertained. "We'll see about that." As they moved away, Jake turned to Lyra, a mix of thrill and nervousness bubbling inside him. "Did you see that? They didn't scare me off." Lyra shook her head, a mix of disbelief and concern on her face. "You have no idea what you're getting into. Just stay close to me. Please." Jake smirked. "No touching, right?" "Got it." But as they continued exploring, Jake felt the tension in the air, the thrill of adventure mixed with the danger of a world that could easily swallow him whole. Ignoring the warning, as Jake and Lyra ventured deeper into Valara, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was at the center of something extraordinary. The vibrant streets buzzed with life, filled with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the occasional roar of some creature in the distance. He was mesmerized by the colorful shops, each selling unique goods that seemed to defy physics. Strange fruits hung from the ceilings, glowing softly, while artifacts of unknown origin adorned the walls. "Check this out," Jake exclaimed, pointing at a vendor selling what looked like floating orbs. "What do you think those are?" Lyra rolled her eyes, her expression a mix of annoyance and concern. "Jake, focus. You really should listen to me. Come on, what's the harm in just looking?" He replied, his curiosity winning out. "I'm not going to touch anything." "Just don't get too close," she warned, but her voice was lost in the clamor around them. Jake wandered over to the vendor, fascinated. The vendor, an alien with elongated limbs and glowing skin, smiled widely. "You want to try the lumino orbs? They enhance your senses. Just a touch, and you'll experience the world in a whole new way." Jake grinned. "Sounds amazing." As he reached out to touch an orb, Lyra rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "No, I told you not to touch anything." Startled, Jake pulled back, his heart racing from the thrill of the moment. Okay. I won't touch the weird glowing thing." He couldn't help but chuckle at how protective she was being. Lyra looked relieved but irritated. "You need to be careful, especially now." Just then, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A group of alien males, their scales gleaming with excitement, rushed past them, shouting and laughing. The energy in the air shifted, and Jake could feel the atmosphere grow thick with tension. "What's happening?" he asked, eyeing the group warily. "It's mating season. They're probably trying to find mates," Lyra replied, her voice low. "It's dangerous for outsiders like you to be out here. They won't care about your feelings if you get involved." Jake shrugged, brushing off her warning. "I'm not scared of a bunch of aliens. I mean, look at me." He flexed his arms jokingly. "You're so naive," she sighed, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. "Just stick close to me." As they continued walking, Jake couldn't help but admire Lyra. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, strong, beautiful, and fiercely independent. Despite her warnings, he felt drawn to her adventurous spirit. They soon arrived at a lively plaza filled with dancing and music. Alien couples twirled gracefully, their movements fluid and mesmerizing. Jake watched, entranced, his heart pounding with the rhythm of the celebration. "Let's join in," he suggested, excitement bubbling up inside him. Lyra hesitated. "Jake, I don't think that's a good idea." But before she could finish, Jake was already pulling her toward the center of the plaza. "Come on, it'll be fun." As they entered the dance floor, the crowd parted, eyes turning toward them. Jake grinned, reveling in the attention. He began to dance, mimicking the alien movements, his body moving to the unfamiliar beat. Lyra watched, her expression a mix of amusement and worry. "You're going to regret this," she shouted over the music. Jake laughed, feeling more alive than ever. "How can I regret this? This is amazing." But as the dance intensified, Jake's exuberance attracted unwanted attention. The group of male aliens from earlier returned, their eyes fixed on him, their expressions darkening. "Look at the Earthling, thinking he can take part in our celebrations," one of them called out, their voice dripping with mockery. "Yeah, who does he think he is?" another added, stepping forward. Jake felt a wave of confidence wash over him. "I'm just having fun. Join me," he shouted, winking at Lyra. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Jake, stop. We should go." "Why? I'm not afraid," he insisted, feeling the adrenaline surge through him. because they will not take kindly to you disrespecting their traditions, Lyra warned, her eyes wide with fear. The males advanced, their intentions clear. Jake's heart raced. He finally understood that this wasn't just a celebration. It was a battleground. "What are you going to do?" Jake challenged, his bravado faltering slightly as the reality of the situation set in. The leader of the group stepped forward, towering over Jake. "You will regret touching what is not yours, Earthling." Jake's confidence began to slip away. Maybe we should." Before he could finish, the crowd erupted into chaos, and Jake knew he had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. The consequences. As the tension escalated, Jake's bravado evaporated, replaced by a sense of dread. The group of alien males surrounded him, their expressions a mix of anger and amusement. The laughter from the crowd faded, replaced by an uneasy silence that hung thick in the air. "Step away from her, Earthling," the leader snarled, his voice low and threatening. "You think you can dance with our females without facing the consequences?" Lyra's grip tightened around Jake's arm. "We need to go, Jake. Now," she urged, panic creeping into her voice. "No, I'm not backing down," Jake shot back, trying to muster some courage. He glanced around, desperate for support, but the crowd had retreated, leaving him and Lyra isolated in the center of the plaza. The leader smirked, clearly enjoying the display. "You want to play? Very well. But know this, you are in our territory now, and you will learn respect." Suddenly, one of the males lunged at Jake, shoving him hard. Jake stumbled backward, barely regaining his balance. Adrenaline surged through him, and he instinctively squared his shoulders, ready for a fight. "Jake, don't!" Lyra shouted, stepping in front of him. "Please, listen to me this time." Ignoring her, Jake clenched his fists. "I'm not afraid of you," he yelled, though doubt gnawed at him. This was not Earth. These aliens were bigger and stronger than he was. The leader raised an eyebrow, impressed by Jake's defiance. "You have guts, I'll give you that. But guts alone won't save you here." He motioned to his friends, and they began to close in, a predator's grin on their faces. "Let's show him how we handle outsiders," one of them taunted. With a sudden burst of courage, Jake ducked under a swing aimed at him. He had some training in martial arts, and now was the time to use it. He pivoted and threw a punch, connecting with the nearest alien's jaw. The creature staggered back, surprised. "Nice one, Jake," Lyra shouted, but her voice was tinged with fear. "Thanks. Now let's." Before he could finish, another male charged at him, tackling him to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of Jake, and he gasped for breath as the alien pinned him down. The leader approached, a wicked smile on his face. "You thought you could challenge us. You'll regret ever stepping foot on Elara," he sneered. "Get off him," Lyra cried, her eyes wide with fear. She tried to push the alien away, but he barely noticed her struggle. Jake, gasping for air, struggled beneath the weight of the alien. "This isn't how it works on Earth," he shouted, desperate to break free. "You can't just bully someone for dancing." The leader crouched down, his face inches from Jake's. "This is our world, Earthling. Here, strength matters more than your foolish customs. You will learn your place." Suddenly, a loud horn sounded, echoing through the plaza. The crowd parted as a group of armed guards arrived, their armor shimmering under the strange light of the sky. They were a mix of species, each wielding impressive weapons that glinted ominously. "Release the Earthling," one of the guards commanded, stepping forward. His voice boomed with authority, instantly silencing the crowd. The male on top of Jake hesitated, glancing between the guard and the leader. After a tense moment, he relented, getting off Jake and stepping back. "Consider yourself lucky, Earthling," the leader spat, glaring at Jake. "Next time, you won't have the guards to protect you." As the males retreated, Jake scrambled to his feet, still panting heavily. Lyra rushed to his side, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I think so," Jake replied, brushing off the dust. "But that was intense. I didn't expect it to get so out of hand." The guard stepped closer, eyeing Jake critically. "You are fortunate we arrived when we did. Ignoring our customs can lead to serious consequences, especially during mating season. You need to respect the boundaries of our people." Jake nodded, still shaken. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just wanted to experience the culture." Lyra stepped forward, her expression serious. He didn't understand, but he didn't intend to disrespect anyone. "It's my fault for not making it clear how serious this season can be." The guard softened slightly. "You must be careful, Earthling. Many do not take kindly to outsiders who disregard their ways." Jake felt a mix of gratitude and frustration. "Thanks for stepping in. But I just wanted to have some fun. I didn't think it would turn into a fight." The guard crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "There are rules in this world that you must learn. Stay close to Lyra and follow her lead. She knows how to navigate our customs." As the guards began to disperse, Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had narrowly escaped a confrontation that could have ended badly. Lyra looked at him, her expression softening. "Now do you understand?" she asked, her voice gentle. "This world is different, and you need to respect it." Jake sighed, realizing the truth in her words. "I get it now. I promise to be more careful." But deep inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of his adventure on Elara. There were challenges ahead, and he was determined to face them, no matter the risks. The chase begins. The atmosphere around Jake and Lyra was charged with a mix of relief and tension. The guard's warning hung heavy in the air as they slowly made their way back through the plaza. Jake felt the weight of what had just happened, but he couldn't shake the exhilaration that still thrummed through him. He was on a foreign planet, surrounded by alien cultures and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. "Let's find a quieter place," Lyra suggested, glancing around to ensure the rowdy aliens were still occupied with their festivities. "We need to talk." Jake nodded, following her lead as they slipped away from the main square, navigating through narrow, winding streets lined with brightly lit shops. The vibrant colors that once captivated him now faded into a blur, his mind racing with thoughts about what had just occurred. "Lyra, I appreciate you having my back there," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "I know I can be a bit reckless, but I just wanted to fit in." She stopped and turned to him, her expression serious. "Jake, it's not just about fitting in. You don't understand how dangerous things can get here. You're not just an outsider. You're a target, especially during mating season." "Why is that?" Jake asked, curiosity piqued. "What's so special about this season?" Lyra sighed, looking around to ensure they were alone before explaining. "During mating season, the males become aggressive. They fight for the attention of females, and outsiders can easily get caught in the crossfire. It's a time of competition and pride, and anyone who threatens that can face severe consequences." "Great," Jake muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "So I've made a few enemies already." "Not just enemies," she replied, her tone grave. "You've drawn the attention of the Aurelian males, the most powerful clan on Elara. It won't take kindly to being humiliated by a human." Before Jake could respond, a sudden rustling noise echoed through the alley, cutting through their conversation. Both of them turned sharply, senses heightened. The shadows shifted, and Jake caught a glimpse of a figure darting past them. "Did you see that?" he whispered, instinctively taking a step closer to Lyra. "Yes, and we need to move," she replied, her voice low and urgent. "We might not be safe here." They quickly made their way down the alley, their footsteps echoing against the stone walls. Jake's heart raced as he glanced over his shoulder, convinced they were being followed. Lyra led the way, her instincts guiding them through the labyrinthine streets of Valara. "Where are we going?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "To a safe place," she replied. There's a hideout nearby where we can regroup and figure out our next move. They emerged from the narrow alley into a dimly lit courtyard. The air was thick with tension as they ducked behind a large stone structure, catching their breath. Jake leaned against the wall, his mind racing with questions. "Lyra, what if they find us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What should we do?" "Stay calm," she said, looking him in the eyes. "If we stay quiet and avoid drawing attention, we'll be fine." Just then, a loud shout rang out from the direction they had come. "Where did they go?" a voice echoed, filled with frustration and anger. Jake's eyes widened. "They're looking for us." Lyra nodded, her expression tense. "We need to stay hidden. They won't stop until they find us." As the sounds of footsteps drew nearer, Jake felt a surge of panic. He glanced around the courtyard, searching for an escape route. "What if we climb to the roof?" he suggested, pointing to a series of low-hanging ledges that could lead to higher ground. "It's risky," Lyra replied, her brows furrowed. "But it might be our only option." Without waiting for a response, Jake grabbed Lyra's hand, and they rushed toward the ledge. He hoisted himself up first, then reached down to help her. They scrambled up, their hearts racing, and managed to pull themselves onto the rooftop. "Quick, over here," Jake whispered, guiding her to a corner where they could observe the courtyard below. From their vantage point, they could see the group of Aurelian males entering the courtyard, scanning the area with their sharp eyes. Their scales shimmered under the faint light, reflecting their rage and determination. Split up. They couldn't have gone far. One of the males barked, and the group fanned out, searching every nook and cranny. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "They're going to find us." "Stay quiet," Lyra urged, her eyes fixed on the males below. "If we stay still and blend in with the shadows, they won't see us." Just as they settled into their hiding spot, one of the Aurelian males stopped and looked up, a predatory glint in his eyes. "I think they're up there," he shouted, pointing toward the roof. "Run," Lyra yelled, and without a moment's hesitation, Jake took off across the rooftop, leaping over gaps and ducking under low-hanging structures. Lyra followed closely behind, their hearts pounding in sync. As they raced across the rooftops, the sounds of pursuit echoed behind them. The Aurelian males had regrouped and were hot on their heels. Jake glanced back, adrenaline surging through him as he saw them gaining ground. "Keep going. We have to find a way to lose them," Jake shouted, his mind racing with possibilities. Lyra nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "There's a narrow street up ahead. If we can jump down and blend into the crowd, we might escape." Jake felt a surge of hope. "Let's do it." With one last burst of energy, they leaped from the rooftop, landing safely on the ground below. The crowd swirled around them, unaware of the chaos that had just unfolded above. "Stick close," Lyra instructed as they maneuvered through the throng of aliens. Jake could feel the heat of pursuit still lingering, but the crowd offered a sense of safety. They ducked into a side alley, panting heavily as they leaned against the wall, trying to catch their breath. "We made it," Jake said, glancing at Lyra with a mix of relief and disbelief. "For now," she replied, her expression serious, "but we need to keep moving. The Aurelian males won't give up easily. They'll come looking for us." As they set off again, Jake felt a new sense of urgency. This adventure had taken a dangerous turn, and he knew he had to rely on Lyra and himself to navigate the challenges ahead. They were in a world filled with unknowns, and danger lurked around every corner. But with every heartbeat, he felt more alive than ever. The chase had begun, and he was ready for whatever lay ahead. Facing the wrath, Jake and Lyra moved swiftly through the narrow streets of Valara, their hearts pounding in sync with the thumping of their adrenaline-fueled breaths. As they slipped deeper into the city's labyrinth, they sought refuge in the shadows cast by towering structures adorned with intricate alien carvings. "Where to now?" Jake whispered, glancing back to ensure they hadn't been followed. We need to find a safe place to plan our next move, Lyra replied, her eyes scanning their surroundings. There's an underground market nearby that might provide cover and information. Underground market? Jake asked, curiosity mixing with urgency. What's that like? It's a hub for all kinds of beings. Traders, smugglers, anyone looking to stay off the radar, she explained. We can blend in and gather intel on the Aurelian males and their clan's movements. They hurried toward the entrance of the market, which was concealed behind a set of rusted metal doors adorned with glowing runes. Lyra tapped a sequence on a panel beside the door, and with a soft hiss, it slid open, revealing a bustling network of stalls and vendors. The air was thick with exotic scents, a medley of spices and unfamiliar foods. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved about, their conversations a cacophony of languages, punctuated by laughter and bartering. Jake felt a wave of excitement wash over him. This was a side of Elara he hadn't yet experienced. Stay close, Lyra instructed, her hand brushing against his arm as they weaved through the crowd. We need to find someone who knows the Aurelian males. They approached a dimly lit stall manned by a small, gray-skinned alien with bright yellow eyes. The vendor was busy sorting through a collection of odd trinkets, but he looked up as they approached. Looking for something special? He asked, his voice high-pitched and eager. Information, Lyra replied, her tone serious. We need to know about the Aurelian clan, specifically their males. The vendor's eyes darted around, clearly wary. You tread dangerous waters, my friends. The Aurelian males are not to be trifled with, especially during mating season. Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. We know that, but we need to find a way to protect ourselves. The vendor leaned in closer, lowering his voice. If you're serious, I might know someone who can help, but it won't come cheap. How much? Jake asked, instinctively reaching for his pocket. He remembered the small stash of credits he had brought with him from Earth. 10 credits for the information, the vendor said, eyes glinting. But be warned, once you enter their territory, you may not return. Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. We'll pay. Just tell us where to find them. The vendor scribbled an address on a small piece of parchment and handed it to Lyra. Be discreet. The Aurelian males value their privacy. If they catch wind of your intentions, you'll be in more trouble than you can handle. With a quick exchange of credits, they pocketed the information and moved deeper into the market. Jake's mind raced with possibilities and fears. Facing the Aurelian males would be a significant risk, but it felt like their only option. As they exited the market, a chill swept through the air, and Jake glanced up, spotting dark clouds gathering overhead. We should hurry, he urged. I don't like the look of those clouds. Let's go, Lyra agreed, her urgency matching his. They navigated the winding streets until they reached the outskirts of the Aurelian territory. The atmosphere shifted as they stepped into a different part of the city. The architecture was more imposing, and the air crackled with an unspoken tension. Jake could feel the weight of eyes upon them, the presence of powerful beings lurking just beyond sight. Remember, act natural, Lyra said, her voice steady as they approached a grand structure that resembled a fortress. We need to blend in. As they entered the courtyard, they were met with a group of imposing Aurelian males, their scales shimmering in the dim light. They stood with their arms crossed, surveying the newcomers with a mix of curiosity and disdain. What do we have here? One of the males said, his voice booming. He stepped forward, towering over Jake and Lyra. Humans. In our territory. We're just passing through, Jake said, trying to sound confident despite the fear clawing at his insides. We mean no harm. The male's eyes narrowed, and he exchanged glances with his companions. You dare enter without permission. You insult us. Lyra quickly stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. We're looking for information about your clan. We want to understand the dynamics here, especially during mating season. The male's laughter was deep and rumbling, echoing around the courtyard. "You think you can just waltz in here and demand our secrets? You are foolish, human." Jake felt a surge of anger, but held his tongue. Instead, he glanced at Lyra, who looked equally determined. "We don't mean to disrespect you," she said, her voice steady. "But if we are to survive here, we need to know how to navigate your customs. We can help each other." The male's expression shifted from amusement to contemplation. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "but you will have to prove yourselves first. You must face the wrath of the Aurelian males." Jake's heart raced at the implications. "What does that mean?" "It means you will compete in our games," the male declared. "Only then will we consider sharing our knowledge." "Games?" Jake echoed, unease creeping into his voice. "What kind of games?" The male smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "Only the most challenging. Survive, and you may gain our respect. Fail, and you will face the consequences." "All right," Lyra said, determination shining in her eyes. "We accept your challenge." As the male gestured for them to follow, Jake felt a mix of dread and exhilaration. They were stepping into a world where they would have to prove their worth, facing the wrath of powerful beings. But deep down, he knew they had to succeed. It was their only chance to survive and perhaps even earn the respect they needed to navigate this dangerous new world. Jake glanced at Lyra, their resolve unspoken but palpable. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their fight for survival. Working together, the towering Aurelian male led Jake and Lyra deeper into the heart of the fortress, past halls adorned with glowing murals depicting past victories and ancient rituals. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as they reached a large open arena, surrounded by onlookers, other Aurelian males, females, and curious spectators from various species. "Welcome to the arena of trials," the male boomed, gesturing broadly. "Here, you will face challenges that test your strength, agility, and wits. Only by proving yourselves will you earn our respect." Jake felt a mix of fear and determination surge within him. "What kind of trials are we talking about?" The male smirked, revealing his sharp teeth again. "You will see. You will compete as a team. For together you may stand a chance against the fiercest of our clan. But if you falter, there will be no mercy." Lyra squeezed Jake's arm, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We got this, Jake. We're in this together." The arena erupted with cheers as two Aurelian males stepped forward to explain the rules. "The first trial will test your physical strength. You will face our strongest warriors in a series of combat challenges. Your goal is to survive without being defeated. Each time one of you is knocked out, the other must continue to fight alone." Jake nodded, swallowing hard. "We can handle it. We just need to work together." The first challenge began, and the crowd roared with excitement. A massive Aurelian male, his scales glimmering under the arena lights, stepped forward to face Jake. "Prepare to be crushed, human," he growled. "Let's see about that," Jake replied, adrenaline pumping through his veins. As the match began, Jake ducked and dodged, using his agility to evade the powerful swings of his opponent. The Aurelian charged at him, fists swinging, but Jake managed to slip behind him, landing a punch to his side. The blow landed with a dull thud, but it barely fazed the warrior. The crowd gasped in surprise. Lyra shouted from the sidelines, "Keep moving, Jake. Don't let him get a hold of you." Jake focused, darting around the larger male, looking for openings. He remembered Lyra's training tips about leveraging his speed against brute strength. He moved in and out, landing quick jabs that kept the Aurelian off balance. But the Aurelian suddenly pivoted, catching Jake off guard. He swiped at Jake with a massive arm, and Jake barely dodged, feeling the rush of wind as the fist flew past him. "Stay sharp," Lyra called out, her voice cutting through the noise. Jake regained his footing and decided to take a risk. He feigned an attack, drawing the Aurelian into a predictable swing. When the male committed to the punch, Jake dodged and slid underneath him, aiming the kick at the back of his knees. The larger male stumbled, and the crowd erupted into cheers. With a roar of frustration, the Aurelian turned, but Jake was ready. He capitalized on the opening, striking with a series of precise punches, and finally knocked the Aurelian off his feet. The crowd fell silent for a moment before erupting into wild cheers. "Not bad for a human," one Aurelian shouted, impressed. Breathless and exhilarated, Jake turned to see Lyra's proud smile. "You did it, Jake. Now it's my turn." As the next challenge began, Lyra stepped into the arena, her own determination shining through. She faced an equally formidable opponent, a female Aurelian who exuded power and grace. "Don't underestimate me, human," the Aurelian female said, her voice smooth and confident. "I wouldn't dream of it," Lyra shot back, a glimmer of competitiveness in her eyes. The match commenced, and Lyra quickly fell into her rhythm. She was fast, using her agility to dart around the Aurelian female, delivering swift kicks and punches. The crowd watched with rapt attention as the two fighters exchanged blows, showcasing their strengths and strategies. Lyra realized she couldn't rely solely on brute strength. Instead, she focused on her speed and agility, using feints and misdirection to keep her opponent guessing. The Aurelian struck fiercely, but Lyra danced away from danger, her heart pounding with excitement. "You're clever," the Aurelian female remarked, a hint of respect in her voice. "But can you keep it up?" "I'm just getting started," Lyra replied, determination shining in her eyes. With every dodge and strike, Lyra felt her confidence grow. She found openings in her opponent's defenses and exploited them, eventually landing a decisive kick that sent the Aurelian tumbling to the ground. The crowd erupted in cheers once more. After both challenges, Jake and Lyra met back at the sidelines, panting and exhilarated. "We did it," Jake exclaimed, adrenaline still coursing through him. "We make a great team," Lyra replied, beaming at him. "Let's hope the next trial is a bit easier," Jake said, wiping sweat from his brow. But the Aurelian male who had brought them here stepped forward again, a smirk on his face. "The next trial will test your minds, not your bodies. It will be a battle of wits." "Wits?" Jake echoed, raising an eyebrow. "What does that entail?" The Aurelian chuckled darkly. "Prepare yourselves. The next challenge will determine if you're worthy to learn our secrets." As they exchanged apprehensive glances, Jake felt a surge of determination. They had come this far together, and they wouldn't back down now. Whatever the next challenge held, they would face it as one, ready to fight for their survival and uncover the knowledge they desperately needed. A new understanding. The arena buzzed with excitement as the Aurelian male prepared to explain the next trial. Jake and Lyra stood together, their hearts racing, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. "Welcome to the trial of knowledge," the Aurelian announced, his voice booming across the arena. "You will face a series of challenges designed to test your intellect and strategic thinking. Only by using your wits can you hope to earn our respect and gain the knowledge you seek." Jake exchanged a glance with Lyra, a mix of determination and anxiety swirling in his gut. "We can do this," he whispered, "just like we practiced." The Aurelian gestured, and the ground shifted beneath them, revealing a large, glowing chessboard-like structure. "This is the arena of strategies. You will each control a piece on this board. Your goal is to outsmart your opponents and capture their king." Lyra nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Chess. I used to play with my grandpa. We got this, Jake." As they stepped onto the board, they transformed into larger-than-life versions of the game pieces. The Aurelian explained the rules, and they quickly realized this was a mental battle against two of the smartest Aurelian strategists. "Think several moves ahead," Jake reminded Lyra as they positioned themselves. "Every piece matters. We can't afford to lose anyone." The game began, and with each turn, They moved in tandem, their synergy evident. Jake controlled a knight, while Lyra took charge of a bishop. They moved swiftly, employing strategies they had honed during their training. The opposing Aurelian strategists moved with precision and speed, capturing pieces and creating a sense of tension in the arena. "You're good," one of them sneered, "but you will not win." "Just watch us," Jake retorted, a smile creeping onto his face. As the game unfolded, Lyra whispered strategies to Jake. "If you move there, I can protect you," she suggested, her voice low but confident. Jake nodded, executing her plan and managing to corner one of the Aurelian strategists. The crowd gasped as Jake captured an Aurelian queen piece, a significant blow to their opponents. "We can do this," he shouted, feeling the adrenaline surge within him. The Aurelian strategists regrouped, quickly adjusting their tactics. The game intensified as the opposing players adapted to Jake and Lyra's moves, their cunning evident, but the duo refused to back down. They communicated seamlessly, relying on their instincts and training to outmaneuver their opponents. "Stay focused. We have to protect each other," Lyra urged, sweat beading on her forehead. Jake grinned, adrenaline pulsing through him. "I've got your back." They fought hard, their minds racing as they battled for every inch on the board. Piece by piece, they knocked out their opponents, showcasing their growing understanding of the game. The crowd roared with excitement, caught up in the suspense of the match. Finally, the moment came when they faced the last Aurelian strategist, the king piece, isolated and vulnerable. "Now's our chance," Jake shouted, determination in his eyes. With a swift move, they positioned themselves strategically, trapping the king. "Checkmate," Lyra exclaimed, her voice echoing across the arena. The crowd erupted into cheers, a wave of appreciation washing over them. The Aurelian male overseeing the trial stepped forward, a newfound respect shining in his eyes. "You have proven yourselves in body and mind. You have earned our respect and the knowledge of our ways." Jake and Lyra exchanged ecstatic glances, relief flooding their senses. They had faced the trials and emerged victorious, but they knew this was just the beginning. As they caught their breath, the Aurelian male continued, "With this knowledge, you may understand more than just our tactics. You will learn our history, our culture, and the connection we share with your species." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, curiosity piqued. "The Aurelian culture values partnership and mutual respect. In mating season, we bond not just for reproduction, but for the strengthening of our communities. Your actions today showed us that you respect this bond, even if it is not your own custom." Lyra looked thoughtful, the meaning of his words settling in. "So this isn't just about winning a trial. It's about understanding each other's cultures." "Exactly," the Aurelian male replied. "By working together, you have proven that humans and Aurelian can forge a bond based on trust and respect. It is a lesson for both our people." Jake and Lyra exchanged knowing smiles, the weight of their journey settling upon them. They had faced challenges and overcome them, not just as individuals but as partners. Together, they had forged a connection that transcended their differences. As the arena echoed with cheers, they felt a surge of hope. They were no longer just outsiders. They were part of something greater, a partnership that could lead to a new understanding between their species. With newfound determination, they looked ahead to the challenges yet to come, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them.